Hey friends, do you feel like you're struggling with meal planning and meal prepping? You're grabbing takeout, you don't know what's for dinner, maybe you're eating cereal, and you know that to get healthy and to get fit, you need to have a meal plan and meal prep in place. Well, today I'm talking with my friend Christy, who is an expert in the kitchen on meal planning, meal prepping, and doing it in a clean, healthy way. So join us for this chat. All right. Hello and welcome today, guys. So, we're going to be talking about fit meal prep in easy and healthy ways to get different meal ideas. So, if you're trying to get healthy or losing weight, but you struggle with actually prepping healthy meals, we're going to give you some tips to help make that a little bit easier. So, if you guys don't know me, my name is Michele. I have my doctorate in physical therapy, and I do online personal training, health coaching, and I teach yoga. So I help women who have put themselves on the back burner finally start taking those steps so they can get in shape, lose weight, and feel good, all without dieting. So, Christy, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Thank you. Um, Christy Baranowski. I am a kitchen confidence coach, and I specialize in meal planning and meal prepping. And what I do specifically is I help women develop systems and routines in the kitchen to not only help simplify their meals, but also simplify their lives. Because we all know that if we like don't manage our time in the kitchen and we feel overwhelmed, it can carry over into other areas of our life. So I get to do that in the kitchen and focus on meal planning and meal prepping.
Yeah, I love that because I think, especially when people are trying to get healthy or lose weight, one of the big struggles is really meal planning and meal prepping and just figuring all those pieces out because I mean, we eat quite a bit throughout the day. Like you have breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and all that takes
Yep.
time, especially if you want to do it healthy. So
Right.
yeah, it's so
Yeah,
important.
and I
So
think it is, and it's like it consumes us, right? To the point where like if we don't have a plan, we are constantly thinking about it. So it is
yes.
draining. It takes our time, even though maybe we're not in the kitchen specifically. So being able to, like you said, have a plan, be able to execute it and implement it really takes like a load off of you, and you feel prepared and much more confident when you go into the kitchen, um, which is a huge bonus too. So
Yeah, I love that because meal prepping is so important for our health. And, we can talk about eating healthier food and that part of our health, but meal prepping and meal planning is also important for our mental health. Just like you were saying, it sort of gets our mind off of it. We have a plan in place. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to stress about it. I mean, so many people are stressed about what's for dinner or stressed about different things having to do with food, that if we can just get some steps and tactics to put in place, it can make it easier.
yeah.
So I'm going to talk about what is healthy. So to me, that would be having a meal that is more whole foods. So I believe everybody is sort of where they are, and we're on, sometimes when you start out your health journey, you're somewhere else and maybe you're still having a can of pop, but you're doing something else better. And wherever you are, that's okay. So for me, I try to make it mostly whole foods. So real whole foods, not anything processed. So that's my basic idea of when I'm talking about something healthy. So do you have anything to add to that?
I love that so much. Um, because that's my whole premise. So my brand, my business is Clean Eating with Christy. And one of the things in my own health journey, when I first started 19 years ago, was I was like literally the takeout queen, and like eat takeout and frozen pizza and McDonald's, and learning how to do that, but learning how to do it gradually so that, right, it's not like cold turkey,
Yeah.
um, and learning how to phase that in. And it makes such a difference when you use whole foods, um, and how you feel and your energy, and just really being able to break that up into your meals, at the beginning. it takes time to think through that. And I think that's the overwhelming piece to it for a lot of people is like, well, like, okay, like I'll have a bagel for breakfast. So it's being mindful of it and saying, okay, how can I have some protein? How can I have some fruits and veggies? And then what is going to be my whole grain or starch for this meal? So that we can, have the energy that we need. But it really is a process and a thinking process. It doesn't happen overnight and it doesn't happen quickly if that's not our default.
Yeah.
Just doing that. So yeah, I love that. And simple, right? So like I always say, just take one thing every day that you can do different. And for me, because a lot of the women that I work with, vegetables is something that they shy away from because it's a lot of work to prepare them, or they don't know how, or they weren't raised eating them, right? So it's kind of like a culmination of those. But if every meal you can just add one handful of veggies, could be spinach, it could be lettuce, it could be a handful of carrots, whatever that looks like, just one meal, start doing that. And then, then we progress from there. But really, like you said, starting where you are, taking that whole clean food and being mindful of what we're putting in our body and then how we're eating our meals is really important.
Yeah, I love that because it drops that all or nothing mindset. And I find when a lot of people start with me, you're so used to dieting or something where you have to like do it 100%.
Yeah.
And really, when you're starting off, it takes the load off. Like, hey, just work on your breakfast this week, or wherever you are. There's not like this perfection. I mean, we know scientific stuff that will make us healthier, but it's a spectrum when you get there. So I love that too. So let's see. Let's go over some tips for weekly meal planning. So, what are some of your favorite tips for somebody really isn't doing much weekly meal planning, like a starting point?
Yeah. So to start, meal prepping cannot happen if you have not meal plans. It just doesn't, like, the two kind of are parallel, right? They go hand in hand. So for me, what I do is I have a consistent day. And this is what I will share with my clients too. You have one consistent day because this is going to be a new habit and a new routine for you. So you want to make it something that you can do every single week to get in the habit of it. So it's one day. And before you can even plan your meals, you have to know what your week is going to look like. Because if you pin all of these amazing meals or off of Instagram or Pinterest, and you don't have time to make them, we get frustrated. So we look at our schedule, we see what that looks like. And I tell people to plan no more than 3 to 4 meals a week because life happens. We have to give space for ebb and flows, right? For that, but also to be able to use what we have in our pantry already. Because meal planning can save us money and it can be budget friendly. Again, we have to have a plan. So if we are constantly buying spaghetti or cans of beans or, frozen meat because we think we're going to use them and just keep stashing them, we're not saving ourselves time or money. So I always encourage people in this process as well to shop your pantry and shop your kitchen first before even going to the store, because 9 times out of 10, you probably could pick at least 2 full meals from what you already have in your kitchen, right? Saving yourself time.
Yeah.
And then after that, then you get to plug those things that you have at home into those 3 to 4 meals that you're making. And I like to use the words intentional and purposeful a lot, especially when I'm talking about going to the grocery store, or if you order online, doing it online too. You make a list of exactly what you need. If you're going to make lemon pepper chicken, you're going to need lemon pepper, right? And it's that point of like, if we're missing one ingredient for that recipe or something, it can throw us into a tailspin. We have to get back in the car. We have to go get it. We're not managing our time with that, right? So we be intentional. We be purposeful with what we're choosing. Also, what's going on our list. And then we go in with a purpose and get out. Like there's no reason to spend any more time either on the website or in the grocery store. Um, but the one thing that I love to share with people is when you come home from the grocery store, take 5, 10, 15 minutes because you already have a plan of what you're making for dinner. Prep, you don't have to prep your full meal because chopping your peppers for the fajitas that you're having on Taco Tuesday night can be a huge time saver. And then you just store them in your Tupperware container. And when you get to that recipe, you don't have to do that, right? You just get to throw them in the
Yeah.
pan. So I like to be able, and that's why it all has a purpose, right? When you sit down and plan for your week, you know why you bought that ground beef, you know why you bought the chicken. So right there, you can go one step further and say, how can I save time on Tuesday night? Because it's going to be busy. Everybody's getting home from their sports and we're going to have 30 minutes to eat. What can I do to make it easier? And then that's where you get to do some prep ahead of time, which people, and I think this is social media's like what we see, right? Is like Sunday afternoon meal prep for 3 to 4 hours and then all the pretty containers lined up. That's not real life and that's not how it works. So prep some ingredients and then you can make your meals quicker, which is another form of prepping as well. It doesn't have to be a full meal that you prep. It can be the ingredients that you're prepping as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of, I feel like I just heard that somewhere else this week. So doing your grocery shopping, coming home and immediately prepping some of those things.
Yeah.
I love that. And also, so we moved across country a couple months ago. And as you were speaking about, like, we have all this food in our house. I mean, like, we spent like a solid month or two trying to eat different stuff in our
What
house.
you
Like,
had.
yeah, like trying not to buy much, like definitely had to eat through the refrigerator and freezer, and we had a deep freezer. But even like in our pantry, because you don't want to bring all that. So I love that.
Yeah.
And it's made me like be a little more conscious as we're like buying food here. Like, let's eat some of this stuff. Like, 'cause you just keep
Yeah.
buying stuff. So
Well,
that is
and I,
great.
yeah. And the one thing too, like, that's really cool about the process is that the more you do this each week, you don't have to spend as much time going through your pantry and your kitchen and your refrigerator because you know what you have. So, it's just like anything. The more you practice it and the more consistent you become with it, it's easier to do. So the same as this can be kind of a chore at the beginning, but it's because we're just learning a new process. And you will start to remember and get to know each week, what is in your kitchen. So it's a lot easier too.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up the 3 to 4 meals a week, because I think that's good to also make cooking not overwhelming. So I will also do like freezer meals. And
Yes.
even we had some peppers that we knew we weren't going to eat before they went bad. So I chopped those up with onions and put it in a freezer bag to make fajitas at a later time so the pepper wouldn't go bad. But we had it last night. So then it was like nice to have all that like chopped and prepped and to throw it in the pan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too for kids. So I have a 9-year-old and I will like bring her alongside me when I'm prepping. I'll give her a knife and be like, can you cut these peppers for me? Because what I hear from a lot of the women that I work with is they want to instill better habits in their children. And one of the ways we do that is involving them in that process of touching the vegetables, cutting the vegetables before we just present it to them on the plate and say, here, have your vegetables. It's good for you. Right? We get to have a whole entire conversation about it. They can taste it raw, they can touch it, so it's not so scary. And then really great conversations come out of that as well in the kitchen. So I'm a huge advocate to like make it also a family experience so that we aren't resentful for the fact that I have to go to the grocery store, I have to do all the prepping in the kitchen, nobody helps me. Like
Yeah.
delegate, bring them in, teach them those life skills. They're going to need those in life later. So teach them when they're young and then they can jump in beside you and help.
Yeah. And do you have any tips for like prepping for breakfast or lunch, whether that's for like the adult or child? Because I think sometimes a lot of people are really rushed at those moments, like in the morning. So sometimes they need something like really simple.
Yeah, so I've started to do a few things. First of all, the Instant Pot is my best friend. I love the Instant Pot and I've started using it for prepping. So I will hard boil anywhere from 6 to 8 eggs in there at the
Okay.
beginning of the week. I will bake sweet potatoes in there.
Hmm.
And I will usually do a whole grain in there too. So whether it be quinoa, rice, something like that. But what I do with that then is those are separate ingredients that I can put, like if I running to grab my daughter from the car line or like early breakfast or something, I can grab a couple hard boiled eggs and a banana and I can go. Right. So I like to have ingredients prepped like that ahead of time. The other thing though, too, is, and this is where your calendar comes in handy. So when you know your schedule, like overnight oats are really easy to prep ahead of time. And you can do 3 to 4 like jars and they don't go bad for the week. So you can prep them, do different varieties, keep them stocked in there. Um, I like to do like bento box type things for myself. So the hard boiled egg, the apple, the almonds, piece of cheese. And when I was working and commuting an hour each way, I would make those bento boxes and that's what I would eat as I was driving to work because everything just fits really nice in there and it's all finger food. And then by the time I get to work, I'm like satisfied.
Yeah.
So just kind of simple things like that. We tend to overthink everything instead of just being like, okay, like I can do it simply. I use a formula with the women that I work with, just 3 ingredients on your plate. You got a protein, fruits and vegetables, and then a whole grain or a starch. And if you can do that 3 times a day, it will make up a very balanced meal, right? And we feel
Yeah.
balanced. So that is, if you have those 3 ingredients separately separated in your fridge, you can also pull and throw together something real quick, whether it be breakfast, lunch, or dinner or snack even.
Yeah. Yeah. And adding a little bit of a healthy fat to that too. I always like people to have a little bit of a healthy fat.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
avocado,
Avocado, yeah,
olive oil for anybody
yeah,
listening who needs quick, easy ideas
yeah,
is great too. Yeah, I love the idea of overnight oats. We've also done steel cut oats in the
yeah,
Instapot in the morning because then it's ready for everybody.
yeah,
Yeah, I think those are great ideas. And then also for the morning, I have some clients like they'll do a smoothie, but like they'll actually prep it the night before because they're just
yeah,
rushed in the morning. So if they take that little time the night before, they're able to stay successful. And another thing I really like is egg muffins. They're not a muffin, they're just made in a muffin tin, but you basically make your scrambled eggs however you want. You could throw spinach or tomatoes or meat in there and you bake it in a muffin tin and you can freeze those. So they're
yeah.
also really quick to grab. So you can get that protein, some fat, and some veggies if you put some in there.
Yeah, and they're really, really great to go. Like you pop them in the microwave and they're good.
Yeah.
Um, the smoothies, what I will do is I will make smoothie bags out of them. So they're the freezer meals, but essentially the smoothies, because that's another thing, right? We don't have time to chop and cut and do all the things. So, and I have clients that will do like they don't have any less than 5 smoothie bags in their freezer at a time because that's something that they use. But all then they have to do is add the liquid in the morning and they just grab the bag from the freezer, throw it in with the liquid, and they're good to go. So
Okay.
that's
So
another option.
your smoothie bag, is that like the fruit, the spinach, the protein powder, just all the ingredients, but not blended?
Yep. So the protein powder, depending on how it comes,
Yeah.
you can always throw that into, but yes, everything is in there. Sometimes even you can freeze like the coconut milk in ice cubes and then add that in there too with just a little bit of milk then in the morning or water and
Yeah.
then kind of blend it all. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I love that idea. I've never made ice cubes of coconut milk, but yeah, I either use canned coconut milk or
Yep.
avocado, which avocados you can freeze too to get that
Yeah.
fat in there and make it more filling. Because I
Yeah.
do find some people will have smoothies or like I'm not
Not
full. Well, I'm like you had spinach and like some pieces of fruit and a little bit of protein, like it's not enough calories. So adding that fat in there
Yep.
and or eating like a handful of almonds or something else. Like, so
Yeah.
making sure that has enough calories if you want that to be a meal.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's so easy to be able to do that. So that's and then it's like when you have things like that prepped, even snack time in the afternoon, like 3 o'clock can be a really hard time. 3, 4 o'clock, you can eat if you're at work, you can make sure that you have those little things, grab the egg muffins or the smoothies, anything like that, or even at home. Like then you don't go to the pantry, you can go where something's already prepped and ready to go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for joining me, guys. I hope that this was helpful and that you guys can take something away and actually implement it. So just like we sort of started the conversation at the beginning, start small, sort of pick something to start with. And a lot of people, if you're struggling, one thing that's very helpful is getting support and being in a supportive community. So whether you really need help with the kitchen, chatting with Christy, if you need help with your health or weight loss as a whole, contacting me, but really reaching out and getting support because it makes it so much easier. I know when I'm on the phone with a client, they're like, oh, that's such a great idea. And then they're accountable each week and things just start to fall in place easier. So feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. And Christy, where can people find you?
So Instagram's probably the best place to find me, and I keep it pretty simple. Christy is with a K and clean is with a K. And then my Instagram handle is just clean eating with Christy all together. And I share lots in my stories of my daily foods and open to messages as well for any questions.
Yeah, perfect. And I'll add her links down below. And I know I follow Christy on Instagram and I've seen her daughter in there. So yeah, really great. So go follow her and then just get that inspiration, get that motivation, and you guys can do this. So hope everyone has a great day.
Hey friends, thanks so much for watching. Make sure that you hit subscribe and ask any questions down below.